Hey, everybody. Raven with Anya. And today we're taking on the Root Center, which we both recognize we're a bit nervous about. And my sense of it, I mean, I think it was actually my first teacher long before human design. But I don't want to start with that. But it has no inherent, there's no awareness. It's not a mental function, it's a physical function. So it definitely, we can both yeah, we can both perceive what we may be experiencing from it, but in a way I think you have to actually pay attention to even notice
Exactly.
what its influence may be.
This is amazing what you just said because as I was just getting ready for the talk, this is exactly what I thought because um, I was maybe reviewing inside of myself, what I'm aware of in my own experience about the open route. And this is what exactly I came to the conclusion that for me, I think this is the hardest uh, center to grasp, but it's open in my case.
Uh-huh.
And exactly, I don't have mental awareness. So my mind was freaked out about ajna when we were talking about ajna, but there is a lot of mental observation on thought process and all those opinions, details, and everything. But root, exactly, that's the body thing. It's very much the body thing. So I definitely realize it afterwards. Um, I do feel in the moment when I get the physical pressure or the stress, definitely when I get that pressure to be fast or moved by people physically. It's physical thing, like how movement around me moves my body, let's say. But that's maybe the maximum I can get after all these years.
Uh-huh, yeah. Yeah. So how I watch, so what I realize again, because I like when we're putting attention on something, then there's an increase in awareness and observation. And what part of my process is to actually go to the keynotes and be reminded. But the way it operates in me, I saw it happen 2 days ago, and then this morning is like we have this time we set.
Mm-hmm.
And I had things to do this morning to be able to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Also wanted to have my normal morning routine, which is very relaxed. It's like the opposite of the physical pressure. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens is I notice I actually get out of my body. Like my mind, in a weird way, starts to hurry me up. Okay, right? One of the not the ma a major not self theme of the root is to hurry up to get it done. And I have been able to catch it like, oh, just get back in my body and walk the earth. It's a very conscious thing I have to do,
Mm-hmm.
but when there's a time commitment, and I don't know if you'd asked me the last time or the time before, are you always on time? And the answer is
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about that.
yes. And
Mm-hmm.
partly, to kind of amplify it for myself and the conditioning, I used to get in trouble when I was like 10 minutes late for to come home from
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
parents. So that it kind of
Me too.
yeah. And yeah, and interestingly enough, and want to turn it back to you, but there's a thread here. The thing about it is it's an adrenalized pressure. And
Mm-hmm.
in my work with myself, and then even in I'll call it my previous coaching business for people in business for themselves, my first program was Take the Busy Out of Business, like really studied, the whole busy thing that we have going on. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
open root. I think, it kind of occurred to me that because there's an addiction to adrenaline that happens too, because
Absolutely.
when the adrenaline is no longer there to push, a lot of
Mm.
people get uncomfortable.
Withdrawal, I would say a kind of
Withdrawal.
withdrawal. Hmm.
Yes, yes,
Hmm. Hmm.
yes. So that's my initial thing. Is there something?
I will share my thought that I like. I also love to have a relaxed morning, just like you do. And I think one of the reason is that open route that was pressurized early on in life
Mhm.
is very traumatizing when you get up in the household where everybody is in a rush, 8 o'clock or whatever, and you grow up in this. And I think at some point you really never want to have that kind of morning again. And I think that's what it's about. Allow yourself to have a space and the morning routine that doesn't feel that you're not in a hurry, and you're not in the stress. Your breath rate and the pulse rate doesn't skip a bit,
Mhm.
because this is also what I observed early on in China when I allowed myself to have mornings. The first thing I noticed that living in a big apartment building, um, I mean, it's a consequence of observation. So I was allowing myself relaxed mornings. I was not. I shifted my work to afternoons. Consciously made that choice, and then I would still be stressed in the morning. I would still feel pressure, and then I understood apartment building. So I'm feeling human design helped me also realize that this is the stress of others that I'm experiencing. And then I insisted I would take myself to the park. Nature calms me down really well, and I think in my all my open centers, which I have three defined. I have six undefined. So I think in all my open centers, nature heals me. Anyway, so getting to the park was the solution, not to sit there in the morning and experience the stress of the whole apartment building. But what I realized, what I was just few days ago, I was exactly what I did. Quiet morning. I went on a walk, and I remembered, for some reason, I remembered my first mornings long ago when I started deconditioning, when I started to allow myself to have those mornings and everything. Being under the pressure in the morning for all those years wouldn't it wasn't automatic that I would just free my morning and I would enjoy it.
Mhm.
So I just realized that for a few years my mornings were still depressed. Withdrawal, adrenaline withdrawal, what I don't know exactly. Also, these observations, I'm not sure how accurate I can be on putting my finger on that. But I think exactly like being for so many years, exactly if you think about it, kindergarten, oh my God, I just remember the winters, the cold winters. My mom would, and Ukraine, my mom would, make me get up, and it's too cold. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to dress. I don't want to go in that winter. It's dark. Then school, then university, then the first work. So
Yeah.
how many years I have been shocked in the morning and rushed into something and experiencing the stress of everyone else. So even the first years of calm and relaxed mornings felt like I can't properly enjoy them. Like I'm hanging here, but there is, I would say, a note of depression,
Mhm.
melancholy. I
Mhm.
also have the 60.
Yep.
So maybe it was now I can put my finger on it, like not being stimulated and having that, uh, hanging there in space, like not being pressurized by anything. It felt strange.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's interesting because I actually it's a little bit less now, but not much.
Hmm.
I wake into a pressure of
Hmm.
what am I going to do today? And it's interesting because, you said depression. I mean, and I have the 60th gate as well. But it's that pressure I mean, I identify it as a pressure to be productive. And
Mm-hmm.
es- and I used to be, my history is I used to be productive, and at
Mm-hmm.
this point, for whatever reason, nothing I'm gonna, I try to figure it out, but I don't have a lot of interest in doing much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's a curiosity to me in like, as a generator, am I finally, is my body finally saying, look, honey, you can't initiate anything, but I'm in this very old, long, as you said, tape.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have this, I mean, there is I look at conditioning a lot. Um, and we live
Mm-hmm.
like it's called internalized capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
is to be productive. And the root center is a physical pressure to evolve, to get through things. And then we've got the format channels coming out of
Mm-hmm.
I did, I don't want to kind of go into the intellectual piece at this yet. Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
little
Yes.
later. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
things I was listening to Raw in the format, just the very first format channels,
Mm-hmm.
which, gave me some insight into even the tribal challenges I have, and why the format channels there's no tribal in the format channels, from the root to the sacral. And the
Mm-hmm.
sacral fundamentally is about,
Mm-hmm.
is reproduction, and it's got the defense circuit that runs through it. So the
Mm-hmm.
root center it's like the tribe is self-contained energetically,
Mm-hmm.
but the collective and the individual circuits, they actually need the force
Mm-hmm.
to actually to sustain them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's that depression when there's like nothing to respond to, or life is mundane and boring, but you've got this stuff going on.
Exactly. You're describing it so well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you, because it was just taken in. So it's coming out pretty quickly, but
So,
it's really quite interesting to me. Yeah. So that's
so two things happened as you were talking. First thing, because I listen a lot to Bina Repnina,
Mhm.
and Bina happens to have defined ajna as you do. I have an open
Mhm.
ajna. And I just it kicked in, as you said. I have the pressure of, kind of pressure of what I'm going to do when I wake up. So she describes it the same way. She has open root
Mm.
and she has defined ajna, and she said the same, that her mind starts bugging her early in the morning what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
With me, I don't know. I don't know if it's ajna. I don't know, but
Uh-huh.
I'm just making this as you were talking.
Uh-huh.
Her words exactly happened in my head.
Interesting.
With me, it's the opposite. I can hang there if I, especially if I have the time. Like
Mhm.
if I don't have, because sometimes I have class to teach around 10 or 11, which is already like the morning is already defined, like there is something I can do and then something to do.
Mhm.
So if I don't have that, I can be very passive. Also, maybe that's the right body. I can be so passive and so idle that at certain point it can come like hello. It can, like, I know you enjoy being so passive and so idle, but maybe you would like a little bit movement. There is, if I know, like, I have time, the most what I will be enjoy doing is staying very passive and very idle. Maybe there is an observations, maybe I can listen to something. But if I can have that space where I don't need to focus on anything and I can just hang in there
Mhm.
in the morning, even if I woke up with some tension or pressure, I think picking up transits for sure. Like when I wake up, I already feel what's the energy of the day and how maybe how energetically my body feels. And then passing that point, idle and passive would be the most preferred state, which I will not always maintain. And sometimes, because some movement is good, like even going for a walk or sometimes just like moving in the house. And I was just like, okay, let's start moving.
Mhm.
And let's see, when I'm moving, I will most likely respond to something, how, as the energy will start moving in my body. If I'm just like idle there in the bed, that's the way it's going to be for like 2 hours, it can be.
Yeah, yeah. So my way to I think what's happened. So interestingly enough, that morning stress. So when I was a bookstore manager, so long time ago, um,
Mhm.
I liked it because I would usually get the morning shifts. I preferred them for two reasons. The stores didn't open till 10. So, and I had a son, so I had to get him to school. I mean, I had to do that, I had to get out the door anyway. But I would get to to the store at 8:30. So an hour and a half before opening. Again, this isn't
Feels good.
so long before. So I would open the door and the books, and my cognition is smell. So first of all,
Oh,
I love the smell
mhm.
of the
Oh,
bookstore. So it
exactly.
would be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then I would have an hour before the first employee showed up because the first other
So
employee.
beautiful.
So I
So
had
beautiful.
that time for myself. So and one day a week because, I couldn't have all the morning shifts. I would come in mid shift. So I do the closing shift from 1 to 9 or something like that. And I hated it because as soon as I walked in, I had to be on.
There is a stress, the
Yeah,
stress. Yeah,
yeah,
it hits you. Yeah, it shocks you. Hmm.
yeah. And then and now it's very similar. Like it's like I can just get here for 10:30 on my time, right? Um, but the way I kind of deal with that immediate pressure is I make a cappuccino just the way I like it. And I journal every morning. And
That's
that's how
beautiful.
I kind of dump the mind and stay
Hmm.
the relaxation. And I don't really have any actual inclination to get up for the day after that until between 10 and 11.
I absolutely get it, and I think understanding that I shouldn't be in a hurry or in a rush or in a pressure in the morning, what made me realize is the contrast. Yeah, the contrast.
Mhm.
So when I just came to China, I think I'm using China example today because that's the most pressurized and stressed I have ever
Mhm.
felt in my life. And the first job that I got as an English teacher was early in the morning, and I had to be there 8 o'clock, and I had to take a subway, and that meant that I am going into subway when most of the Chinese people are going into the subway in the peak hour. It was only half an hour. It wasn't. It was still like center, and I would get exhausted. So by 8:30, I would be already there at work, and I would be like exhausted before even starting work. And this is when I realized actually how damaging physically, physically, not only like it bothered me mentally that I don't want to see all these people and all of that, but physically I felt shocked. I didn't know these words like shock,
Mhm.
like, but as I started like practicing this awareness of my body, and then my friend, she was practicing aura soma, and aura soma is something like spray that is has some energy healing properties. So the bottles that I picked the most at that period, she actually told me the bottles, they are like the colors, and you choose
Oh,
them
bottles.
according
Okay.
to, yeah, you choose them according to the colors. You stand in front of the set, I said, "Oh my God, you're choosing the battles. All of them indicate that you had physical shock. Your body was
Mm.
shocked by being exposed to some energy, almost like, if something happens like very quickly and you would like jump, that kind of shock." So later, I realized this is the freezing shock. This is what happens when you have an open root, and of some of those shocks you might be not aware. You could be a
Mhm.
child and something like a loud bang or something happened around you, and that would shock your system, your entire system. And um, it can go into some kind of freeze, like it can even freeze
Uh-huh.
your energy at some point. And that's why I think I was very stiff as a child. So stiff, like literally, I was the stiffest girl in the class.
Hmm.
And I know there are other things also why, but I think also my system was shocked on
Hmm.
occasions, and
Yeah.
the pressure and the tightness definitely,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. I mean, in my days today, it's like the morning's great and the evening gets great after a certain place where I no longer feel that pressure. And I say everything in between is a crapshoot. I never know how it's going to go, but that's really interesting. I wanted to share one story, and then I thought maybe,
Mm,
we also like, what's our experience of being around people with defined roots, because that's another piece of it. But for me, I had I call it now symptoms associated with Crohn's disease in the 90s,
mm-hmm,
and through around 2005. And where it hit my body was definitely in the root center area. Like
mm,
it can hit in different parts of the intestinal tract. And so with that 60 for the 60th gate twice, I had to learn to honor my limitations. And I created this, I don't even know what the right word is now. I don't think it's a mythical character, but it's something like that where I am reliable. I show up. You can count on me. And I would get but when I had Crohn's and I was active at some point, and I would keep going to work, but at some point the body's like, you have to tell them
mm-hmm,
can't do this. And then I would go on disability leave. And the last time I did that, I was working, actually, I had a great job. And for me, it was very relaxed and it was a nice team thing. And it wasn't very stressful. But I ended up taking 2 months of disability leave, which was the longest I ever did. It was also right near the end of the job itself for me. Um, and in that time, I mean, I could even feel the difference in my own energy. I had kind of gotten centered in my body
mm,
because I wasn't still doing that. So the first day that I went back to work, I was happy to be back. And then, the girls went to lunch, the women, we went to lunch, and and then I could observe what was happening, which was, okay, we got to go to lunch now. And we got to hurry up and get to the restaurant. And then we have to hurry up and order. And then we have to hurry up and eat our lunch. And then we have to hurry up and get back in time, right? Because you have a lunch hour. Um,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
what I noticed is energetically, the feeling I had is bodies pitched forward, like this, not centered.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
I had made a decision. I'm not going back to that. Of course, my body can still get pulled out of center
Yeah,
by my head. But that's when I really started to see what a crazy way to live.
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And then if people are
Let's do everything in a hurry. Let's get it out of the way, and then so we can be less in a hurry, but we will be still in a hurry.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an illuminating moment for me. So yeah, I had to learn different ways, and then with that undefined ego, like to prove, it's like they just talk, they work beautifully together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were
But
clearly
right,
together.
yes.
This is by the way, I had another thought I wanted to share because you mentioned communism, capitalism in being
Uh-huh.
effective. And I wanted to say in communism it's the same.
Mm,
And in
mm,
capitalism, I think you can choose the way you can be effective, but in capitalism or in communism, you have to be effective. Like, can you imagine, like in Soviet Union,
mm.
you would there was a time that you can go to jail for being unemployed.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. So this is also Bina because Bina she's a bit like historian and she likes to look at periods and also describe when she's talking about the energy now and how we change now. She was like, hey kids, I just want to remind you because you can do this now or not do anything or like this or like that. But there was a time when you could you could get the prison time for not doing anything. You were not allowed. It was not accepted. Um, it was very punishable even in your head. And saying that you are lazy or saying that it was against the norm. It was judged.
Mhm, mhm,
You were supposed to be productive in like even if it's your friendship, even if it's your family, even if it's your whatever you're doing, you have to show signs of productivity. So I remember when I was a kid and when I would have a vacation, holiday, summer, this whole because I used to go to school and you get this thing that you have to be doing certain things, so I would write my occupations throughout the day. I would come up with, okay, I will do drawing at this time, and I will, help my grandma at this time. And then I noticed I don't follow them, but I just felt guilty, like having all this free time and not doing the right thing.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah, like I remember that, like pressure to be productive, even as a child, like feeling guilty for enjoying my summer holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah, it's so
was
common.
there. It was there. Like it took me, mm, you see those mornings that I mentioned that, are guilt free now. It didn't just happen naturally. I had to persist, insist, and finally, after about 7 years, I saw a change that I can just enjoy my morning and I'm happy to have it this way. And there is much more joy now and not just depression in the
Right.
morning. And, yeah, and
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. And and the other way that I remind myself, I don't have as much nature as in the last place nature, when I talk about nature, I mean animals. For me, for whatever reason, they tend to bring more relaxation than trees, for example. Uh,
Hmm.
but because animals are just beings, they don't have any of this crapola. So in this place, because I do forget, if I go and take a moment to sit outside, there's a road, usually there's a road runner around, and it's like, hi. I mean, it just, and they're really cute. And they are semi-responsive, I think. I don't know. So
But
that's
you have an animal that reminds you of relaxation all the time. So you have your personal master of
my
relaxation. You have a
cat.
cat. Yeah.
Right now, she and I aren't doing well together, but yeah, she's just chilling on a chair all day in the sunshine or in the dark.
Yeah, there is something I want to reflect on. So you mentioned boundaries and where you're feeling where your energy um, being maybe interfered by others and talking about open route. I think
Mm,
that's
mm,
exactly what it is. And when I feel the impact of, only then I can realize that, this is not okay. This doesn't feel good. So open route, maybe the most physical experience of somebody crossing the boundary and making you feel uncomfortable. But I also noticed, and this was one of the very much awakening realization at the very beginning, like when I remember leaving your design course with
Mm-hmm.
John.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who brought it up and how it came about. Started speaking about that you can do things that are actually physically uncomfortable without realizing that you're doing them until later. So I was started asking myself, what are those things that I did that were compromising my body? For example, I noticed this. Sometimes it's the person next to me, whether maybe they are tribal, maybe they feel me, but sometimes even the person next to me, they're like, "Are you comfortable in this position?" Because I think it even becomes visibly obvious that maybe the way I'm sitting or something that I am uncomfortable and I don't realize it. So sometimes it happens that person is like, "Are you comfortable? Are you cold?" So sometimes I'm like, I'm actually fucking cold." And the awareness of the physical discomfort didn't reach. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
because also open ajna, maybe that observation doesn't reach me in the right. My body definitely indicated. I have a spleen, definitely indicated, but somehow, mm, maybe after you are shocked that many times and you become a little numb.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I do know, yeah, like numbness, that's for sure, much less now than before. And I definitely tend to feel more now as I am, whether I'm physically comfortable or not. But still, I can still notice that I kept uncomfortable posture for a bit longer than normal.
Uh-huh.
And only when it really hurts that I will be like, why am I sitting this uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about your experience with this, but this was shocking, revealing. This is, I was like, oh my God, shoes, tight shoes, uncomfortable clothes at some point.
Huh.
Mm, accepting exactly something that is not really comfortable and only later realizing that I'm not comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have something equivalent to that, but that's an interesting, I mean, I probably do. I mean, I get cold. I wear these buddies because they get cold.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I can't really fix this, but I have pretty short calves. So
Mm-hmm.
most chairs are too
Mm-hmm.
high for me. So my body does get compressed sitting in a regular chair for long periods of time. It's better for me. I mean, I'm not in that position now, but it's better for me to be
This
like
is so
this.
interesting. This is so interesting, your observation, because I can't sit on a chair.
Well,
I
yeah.
can't. I will sit on a chair in a restaurant or in a cafe because there is, I mean, if I can choose to sit on the floor,
Uh-huh.
I'll definitely do.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
at home, like you see me doing these videos, I can't put myself on a chair and on a table because that's, if I have to speak comfortably and being relaxed, chair is not gonna do it for me. So maybe there is something with this bomb being in the air and not feeling enough energy underneath it.
Something, yeah. Even those guided meditations that like people want to do and sit in your chair, and I'm like, it's like immediately, no,
No,
I'll do it this way.
exactly, exactly, exactly. So this is interesting. Like we are both sharing it. Maybe your shortcuts or maybe the thing in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Very, very interesting.
support. So should we talk a little bit about, I mean, I don't have a lot, and I also want to say, because you mentioned John, and I'll probably talk about him because did have a defined route to spleen is the moon. So I mean, what are like an example of your experience being around a defined route? Both the
So,
bad and the not so fun.
so at first I thought that I should really avoid emotional people.
Uh-huh.
I, yeah, first as I realized the conditioning power of emotions and how I filter the emotions of other people and all of that. That was my first like Like I understood it's better not to be extra exposed to emotions,
Mhm.
and maybe as I was able to deal with that better, and that all got off the list, let's say, and with my observations, I think at the beginning of my process, I think now I can be just myself, and I can more normally accept that that's the other person, and and even the conditioning, and deal with the conditioning better. But at the beginning of my experiment, I realized that when somebody defines me with their rhythm, with their timing, which this is
Mhm.
what defined
Mhm.
root does, because
Mhm.
how I feel them, it's like they're like a tank or something really heavy. And then when they have their rhythm, whether it's like this or whether it's like this, or it is going to impact my body, like their movement, and when I'm with them, there is no way but following that rhythm. And
Mhm.
I haven't, maybe until now, because I don't know why, but I don't know, thank God, or I am actually surrounded with people with open root, like
Huh,
90,
interesting.
90 or 80% of the time. Yeah, I feel very blessed. but but it can happen. I think I have experienced that somebody with a fixed root, whose whose rhythm or maybe pace, or the how fast they are or how slow they are, didn't bother me, and was okay, because automatically you tune to that,
Uh-huh.
from my experience. But I have had some friends, and also after looking at their design, I realized why I can't do things with them, because whether too slow, like way too slow, like they have
Mhm.
that, they're gonna take much more time. They're gonna go through that process, especially also maybe emotionally defined.
Uh-huh.
Going shopping with my girlfriends, which when you're younger, it appears to be a fun idea, and then just like
Yeah,
being so exhausted,
yours to
being
be a
so
fun idea.
exhausted by their process. Like
Mm.
I'm not already doing any shopping, but I'm still following their process at their speed, and at
Mhm.
their rhythm and everything. So it's doesn't, it's not fun idea anymore for me. So
Interesting
this
that
is
you say it that way because I don't like really driving and doing things with people anymore. Like in
this
cars,
is
in
so
cars.
this is so sweet. You're so honest. You're so honest. I am
But
realizing
for
that
that
I'm.
for what you're saying though, just that being needing to feeling of needing to go with their rhythm. I don't have the same openness, but there's a lot of openness and there's nothing defined in my body. So it's like, I'm going to take in whatever I take in. But that's so, and I smiled and giggled too. Like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea to do the girl, to do this people's stuff. Um,
And then 1 hour later, you're like
right.
exhausted already,
Yeah.
and you
I
can
can
pretend that it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I shared it with you off, separate from this, but my mother has a sign. She has the 55, wait, 39, 55, 39 to 55. So root to um solar plexus. And one of my challenges as a young girl who wanted to get to the party on time. Oh, wait, is that an open root thing? Is that
Hmm.
I almost always had to, or anything we did, I had to wait for her
Hmm.
to be ready. John Martin had root to spleen, so that acts differently, but I was
Hmm.
pretty clear somewhere along the line of working in Aura in person with him that we did things on his timing.
Hmm.
And he was
Right.
slower. I mean, it's funny because I think when he was doing extreme sports, he could
Hmm.
he could be the cheetah.
Hmm.
Um, but in life, he was more of a, he, actually, that was the other thing is be, he needed to walk around a lot in his home. Like he actually had to burn. So people with defined roots actually have to burn that energy off too. There's
Right.
a
Yeah,
pressure
that's
they have to
right.
burn. Yeah. And so he often just paced in the house. Um,
Mm.
and then one year when the 2838 was in, I had three friends with that channel and they were, all of them were projectors. So they too, they were taking an energy and they had to burn it off. Like one of my friends, he had a day job and it was in Sedona and he worked right outside of hiking trails. So he got off work. He did not go home. He went on a trail. And without his even having the awareness, I think he was burning off
Mhm.
energy of sitting.
Exactly. This is what I noticed. People with a fixed route are much more into sports and regular sports and heavy sports and uh, someone who's my friend, but I also have done her reading and she has a defined route and I said, like sometimes you wake up and you just run. That's
Mm,
how I felt looking at her design. And she's like, exactly, that's exactly what I do. I just like wake up and run. And I was 15 when I ran the last time. And when I did that, I forced myself. And literally, it felt so bad that
uh-huh.
I was 15, but already not having that energy and trying to push my body was already obvious. And I promised myself, I like swore that I will never think that it's healthy and I will never push myself
Mhm.
to do this because my body just felt so, most probably it was the morning when I didn't have even the sacral energy to do that.
Mm,
It just like pushing my body into it just showed me my limits very
mhm,
clearly. I respect my limits about moving or moving fast or
mhm,
certain days I do have certain energy and I do feel enthusiastic to do an extra walk, an extra mile, and certain days absolutely not.
mhm.
So that's
Uh-huh.
like true, accepting the limitation that I cannot be that physically active and mm, especially like only dancing and only some form of dancing when you don't have to like
Uh-huh.
because there are a lot of dancing like this as well.
Right.
So only some
Right.
form of dancing when the music stimulates me in a certain way and there is not that pressure but more like a grace, and then if I respond on that day to go to that dancing, that feels like a proper amount of stimulation for me in a group. That's the only that let's be honest here. That's the
Mhm.
only group physical activity that I accept these
Mhm.
days. Yeah.
So it occurs to me, and we haven't done this yet, but it might be interesting to do this conversation again with somebody with a defined root,
Yeah.
share their
Totally.
experience. Because we talked about it a little bit, like what was it like to be around that, but what is it like to have it? I don't know if
And there are so many, you see, also interesting, like format energy would
right.
definitely feel something. Then root to the spleen and then root
Yep.
to the solar plexus would be on the wave. That's like
Yep.
totally different experience. So, but at
Right.
least,
Yeah.
yeah, at least one example would be really interesting to see how it goes for them.
Yeah, I'm just noticing, I'm looking at the diagram made for my little chart and I'm like, well, who do I know? Like who in my life that's in this experiment that I'm aware of? And mostly it's on the splenic side
On
and,
the spine side.
and the format side. I mean, I know of two women that carry the 360 and one of
Oh
the
wow.
features, that's all they have. And neither are in human design. I'm pretty sure I know one of them isn't. I don't know if the other one ever went there, but they both experienced depression a great deal. And that's one of the, it's the individual channel and it's the 360, the mutation, but the pressure for a mutation, but in the meantime, when nothing is happening, um, it can feel quite like death. I mean, I'm being
Yeah.
extreme. But and then like I said, I know one person with the 2838 who's in this experiment for sure. And I know a lot of 5818s or 1858s. But I don't know. I must have been staying away from the other side. I don't know.
Your aura protects you. It takes care of you. I just, yeah, I just wanted to say something about the format.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the format energy. So, um, as a little girl, I didn't like to be around my father. When I grew up and I started looking into that, and I realized it was physical. I
Mhm.
physically was uncomfortable to be with him in one room. Like I would feel like I want to get out. And then I started looking at his design, and he was also the person, if I have to do something with him later years, I would have to follow his schedule. He was often late. He made me wait for him a lot of times. And then I looked at his design, was not sure about the time, but when I saw he had three format channels,
Oh, wow. Oh,
three, three of them. So being next to him, being there in one room was definitely not pleasant for an open route. That these explanations
yes.
I don't know how it is for other people, but for me it's such a relief
Yes.
just to see how mechanically, there is the mechanical explanation, and I don't need to come up with all
Mhm.
these other
Mhm.
theories.
Mhm.
That of course he had three formats. He was formatting me, his energy was formatting me, and I, as an individual, I just wanted to get out of that pressure. There was no way, and I was like asking myself, like, why would I be born from somebody that I cannot even be in one room? So
Well, yeah, well, that's the big question of everything. But I mean, why is my family tribal and I'm not? I mean, I got gates, right? Well, it's because you can't stand aside and observe. I mean, I think that's it's ultimately the gift is, it's where we go to school, right? It's like, okay.
mhm.
And I said my mom has the 3955. My dad did too. Um, Plus, they both had channels on the going out the solar plexus in different directions. But I remember, and I don't know really if what this is associated with, but my brother has an undefined root center. I don't know if it's completely open. I don't remember. So one of the possible manifestations of that is what they call ADHD, but he's got a undefined solar plexus, sacral, and root. So his body he's
Mhm.
tapping in,
Mhm.
right? So one day he and I as adults, were with my parents at some grocery store and they wanted to get something at the bakery counter. And I don't know, they got into a squabble, not unusual. And so the fine solar plexus and root, and he and I just both backed up. We just backed up and walked away and started giggling. But it was such an honest body response
Mhm. Mhm.
to here comes a clash, motorized. And I think that's the thing is, what you were even saying, the explanation is it is a mechanical occurrence. And, as generators, the response can be just the body moving away, and it's okay.
Mhm. Mhm. I love our talks because sometimes I like literally I was very intimidated about also open route because I was thinking that I don't have enough observations. There, like as we said, hard to observe before, like only after it happened and then you see it. But as we talk, so much unfolds.
Mhm,
So you mentioned the depression,
mhm,
and I have experienced the depression for about a year. And this exactly, it felt such a isolated, lonely when nothing happens and you're just waiting for that thing to start happening. And I think one of the reason that there were some other triggers as well, but one of the reason I was exposed for 20 years to a certain routine,
mhm,
getting up, going to school, blah,
mhm,
blah, blah. And at some point at university, it was more relaxing and I could go to some lectures, I could skip some, and it was the first time when I experienced, um, that it's not every day 8 o'clock and stuff. And then when I stopped feeling that pressure, regular standard pressure, something just went off and it triggered whatever. I
mhm,
have open route, I have a
mhm,
60, but I had a very deep depression for a year. And how it felt inside, it felt like a tunnel. And I was at some point it was like nothing, 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 nothing. And then I started to realize that there would be a point when I reached the bottom. I don't know where you find this things to describe it, but it felt like okay, it cannot continue forever because it feels almost like you're falling in a
mhm,
black tunnel.
mhm,
And I felt like okay, so maybe when there is a bottom, there will be no more falling. And there
mhm.
was one moment in about a year when I started to feel the bottom. And it was like, okay, so, it's not about still being excited or, it's over, whatever, but you're like, I'm not falling anymore. So I feel that bottom. I don't know, but I have
Yeah,
heard, yeah, I've
yeah.
heard something similar from someone else.
Mhm. It's kind of, yeah, it's interesting. Because I have two gates from the sacred pointing to this root and the collective circuitry, and then the 60 coming up. And I I'll call it exploring the dark night of the soul. Like I've been
Mhm.
feeling like I've been in that for a while, but then I was wondering today, and this is just, I have no answers, just a curiosity, like in human design, which would never talk about, I don't think that, but I suspect that the only thing that came to me is the deconditioning process called you stop, if to the degree that you can until you don't, there can be this depression or feeling of, well, what's the point? Or, for the, if we go with the standard generator question, who's ever going to ask me, that it can send, there can be that moment because you're literally, if I like it's, if you're a barge, like just going through the water in one direction and suddenly the brakes are put on and it's like, and when will anybody or anything be of interest? I know I'm kind of making that up. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but I
It
just,
makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense, but we all have different way we see it inside of ourselves. So sometimes I think some people just see that this is exactly how they describe it, and then
yeah.
it's sometimes it's just different how we feel and how we see it internally.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think we're done. What do you, so, I mean, I
Yeah,
could say more about the, but I don't want to bring any more.
yeah. I'm so happy how I was even you see, I think today I spoke the slowest ever because normally when we have other talks, I notice myself, I get excited and I interrupt you. And today on purpose, I was like, I'm gonna slow down I'm gonna slow down. This is exactly what you should do when you have an open root. You should slow down, breathe, see what happens.
Yeah.
So today I was observing myself, and as you spoke, more stuff was coming out, and it was unfolding. All this post observations of the open root activity or
Yeah.
stress or impact or whatever that is. Was a very good one.
Yeah. I actually always experience you as kind of more centered in your body than I am because I notice my arms move and my body starts to move, but whatever, right?
Mm. But I also notice, I will tell you, for example, I'm teaching classes, right? And when I teach classes, I also need sometimes my hands to be busy with something.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
notice this with you, I'm like so engaged
Mhm.
that I think my whole body is like into it.
Mhm.
But when it's just like a mental activity, like my classes, I notice that the best way to
Hmm.
maintain myself throughout the time is that I have something with my hands to do.
Interesting. Yeah. And and some part of it, looking good, whatever. I took an interviewing class last year, earlier, maybe, I don't know, earlier in the year. And, it's like, keep your hands down. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. That's somebody's rule, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I actually just want to wrap up, like, for anybody who listens to this, if you have a defined root and want to, share your experience in comments, or even say, hey, I'd like to come on. Are you good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Jason?
if somebody watching this video, yeah, wants to talk about their own experience and share about the Defined Root Center, we will be happy
Mhm.
to have you. That would
Yeah.
be very exciting. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Until next time.
Until next time.
Wait, let me get it centered. Until next time. Does that feel like me? No.